Good evening. Tonight, we remember one of Hollywood's most beloved figures, a man whose laughter could fill a room, whose warmth transcended the screen, and whose humanity continues to echo 3 decades after his passing. John Candy, the gentle giant of comedy, the heart of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and the unforgettable Uncle Buck, is being celebrated once again through the new documentary, John Candy, I Like Me, directed by Colin Hanks. The film offers not just a retrospective of Candy's career, but a deeply human portrait of a man whose kindness was as legendary as his comedic timing. Early in the documentary, audiences are taken to a somber moment, Candy's 1994 funeral, where his close friend and collaborator, Dan Aykroyd, delivered a eulogy that perfectly captured his spirit. "This is no meager life we reflect on today," Aykroyd said. "He was a grand man, and indeed, grand he was, in talent, in heart, and in the joy he brought to millions." John Candy's rise to stardom was anything but ordinary. Born in Ontario, Canada in 1950, he grew up in a modest household touched by both love and loss. His father died when John was just 5 years old, a tragedy that would shape much of his outlook on life. According to Colin Hanks, that early encounter with mortality became both a burden and a motivator. When you lose your father at that young age, you develop coping mechanisms. Hanks explains in the documentary. For John, that was eating and drinking and smoking, but it was also hosting people, pleasing people, wanting to entertain, seeking approval. That desire to bring joy to others became his defining trait. Whether it was his time performing with Toronto's legendary Second City troupe, or starring in hit films throughout the 80s, Candy carried with him a need to make others smile, perhaps because he knew deep down how fragile happiness could be. Candy's career began to take off with memorable supporting roles that showcased his natural comedic rhythm. In Stripes, The Blues Brothers, and National Lampoon's Vacation, he stole scenes with effortless charm. But it was under director John Hughes that Candy truly found his artistic home. With Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and Uncle Buck, Hughes gave him the opportunity to balance humor with heartbreak, to be both funny and profoundly human. In Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, opposite Steve Martin, Candy played Del Griffith, a lonely, well-meaning salesman whose cheerfulness masks deep sadness. The performance remains one of the most tender portrayals in comedy history. As Hanks notes, there was always something there behind the eyes. That humanity, the ability to make you laugh one moment and tear up the next, became Candy's hallmark, and it's what continues to make his work resonate long after his untimely death. John Candy, I Like Me, gathers an extraordinary lineup of voices who knew him best. Steve Martin, Macaulay Culkin, Bill Murray, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, Martin Short, and others. Together, they paint a picture of a man who embodied warmth and generosity in an industry not always known for either. Each story adds a new dimension: the quiet mentor, the playful colleague, the friend who always asked how you were really doing. Macaulay Culkin, who worked with Candy on Uncle Buck at the age of 8, recalls that Candy was the father figure he needed during a turbulent childhood. "Even before Home Alone, my dad was already a monster," Culkin admits in the documentary. "John would check in on me, ask about home, and make sure I was okay." It's a touching testament to Candy's empathy, proof that his compassion wasn't limited to the screen. Colin Hanks, who directed the documentary, has his own personal connection to Candy. His father, Tom Hanks, starred alongside the comedian in the 1984 film Splash, when Colin was just a child. Reflecting on that time, Hanks remembers how Candy treated him not as a kid tagging along on set, but as an equal. "He made me feel important. He made me feel heard. He made me feel seen," Hanks recalls, "and I cherish that. It's a rare sentiment in Hollywood, where many stars are too preoccupied to notice the small faces in the background. But for Candy, kindness was second nature. Colin even jokes in the documentary, "People always refer to my dad as the nicest guy in Hollywood, and I just want to scream, well, you clearly have never heard of John Candy." That comment, though humorous, captures the essence of Candy's legacy, a man universally admired, not just for what he did, but for who he was. Candy's reputation for kindness wasn't just a public image. It was real, and it was profound. Colleagues describe how he would stay on set long after filming ended, chatting with crew members, making sure everyone felt included. He was the kind of star who remembered birthdays, who noticed when someone was having a rough day. But beneath that warmth lay a quiet sense of mortality. Hanks reveals that Candy often felt he was living on borrowed time. His father's early death haunted him, and the pressures of fame compounded the anxiety. Despite his joyful persona, he carried private struggles with health and self-doubt. When Candy died suddenly of a heart attack in 1994, at the age of 43, Hollywood lost more than a comedic powerhouse. It lost one of its kindest souls. His death was a shock, a moment of collective grief that revealed how deeply he had touched everyone around him. The documentary doesn't shy away from the complexities of Candy's life. It shows a man constantly trying to balance the demands of fame with his longing for simplicity. Friends describe how he would rather spend a quiet evening cooking for his family than attend an industry party. Yet his sense of responsibility to his audience never wavered. Even in his final years, despite declining health, Candy continued to work tirelessly, determined to make people laugh. That work ethic, that commitment to joy, defines his enduring appeal. John Candy, I Like Me, captures that beautifully, blending archival footage, interviews, and behind-the-scenes moments to reveal a man who never quite realized how loved he was. For all his fame, he remained humble, self-effacing, even shy. As Dan Aykroyd put it, there's a word we don't use much anymore, but it applies to John. He was grand. Nearly 30 years after his passing, John Candy's legacy feels more relevant than ever. In an era where cynicism often overshadows sincerity, his blend of humor, heart, and humility stands as a reminder of what truly endures. Colin Hanks's documentary is not just a tribute to a comedian, but a love letter to decency, to the idea that kindness can be as powerful as talent. Candy's films continue to inspire, not just because they're funny, but because they're human. They remind us that laughter can heal, that compassion can connect, and that even in a business built on ego, genuine warmth can leave the deepest mark. As the credits roll on John Candy, I Like Me, one thing becomes clear. John Candy wasn't just the nicest guy in Hollywood. He was, and will always be, one of its biggest hearts. And that perhaps is the grandest legacy of all.